You should be most welcome to GMODISM Total Nerdery channel. We're here for a beginner's guide in From the Depth. The game has now been finally released. It's no longer in early access. It is instead out of beta and stable build releases. Fantastic. So if you're new to this game or have decided to come back after the stable release, this video should be for you as it is a little beginner's guide and tutorial. Let's first dive into options. Inside option here we have a lot of graphical settings and you should of course set whatever fits you. I will just show you some few points. Here you can see a reduction of repetitive noises. If you think that you don't want to hear your engine dragging on all the time, you can set this to 5% or something. However, for this tutorial I want to set it to 0, which means that we will always hear the sounds. Reduction of repetitive noises turns off noises when you have them for a very long time, like an engine for example. Alright, and then we'll have this one, performance. We can set it to go to degraded mode after it goes down a certain FPS. So could be good to set something like that. Alright, we have a lot of settings we can change here, but I just show you like this one here. We'll go to build options. You will want to learn the key-based building system. It's much better for From the Depth and it's good to get used to it sooner or later. Better sooner. And you can always switch to regular, like other games, mouse-based build mode when you need to. And it's very rare occasions you need to, but sometimes I use it, but this should be the default. And to use this efficiently, you want to turn up the build speed to max, probably, but I would recommend you to do this when you've got a little bit hang of the build, you know, the key-based building. But here we have the settings if you want to be able to build faster when you've gotten a hang of it. Alright, and there is something called RPMs create visual holes in the water surface. You may think it looks weird. If you are annoyed by it, as many are, you can go in here and you can turn it off. So that's basically the settings I'll show you. So let's go into the game here. So we just click that down here, escape, learn and create, and designer mode. So now we've spawned at this little designer here. And to build something here, we should first go into destroy all vehicles. Yes, like that. And now we are free to move. And to basically get out of our character, we just click tab. You can shake the settings, of course. You just click tab. We can move around. If we play the campaign and we want to use the strategic map, we can click E, like this, or M. We have another type of map here, which you can go to by just zooming out from the E map as well. They're kind of connected, just different views of the same map. So E and M. Right. Then we can go into building, and to start building something we'll need to click the B key, as in Bertil. And here we have a building, and now you can see it's falling. Press caps lock and it will fly up into the air in a nice little place. You can see a lot of settings here, and if we click F3 we can switch between the regular build mode, which is, you know, mouse based, and if we click F3 again we go to the one that's designed for this game. You can see a little front here, that's the front of our craft, and we can see the different directions here. Very good to get a hang of. But anyways, I'll just do one thing here. You can spawn vehicles, load vehicles, you can save vehicles and load them. And I will just spawn another vehicle I've already built to show it to you. And there we spawned a little platform. We just went in here, load vehicle, click, and just click spawn. You can also select to spawn in the vehicle's share. If you didn't do that, you can go to a share on the vehicle and you can just press Q and you will teleport there. Now you can see I have a very HUD-free cinematic thing. This is enabled and disabled by F9 key. So, if we click Tab, we teleport to our character. If we click Tab again, we get outside of it. So, we can now click space to get out of the share, and we can now move around. We can use the scroll key to give access or take access to of the AI from the weapons. We don't have any weapons on this build, but if you want to change to your hot menu bars, you can switch between them here with the number keys. We have different weapons, and of course we have a binoculars, which we can zoom in and zoom out by left and right key. This is great to combine with the HUD-free mode to take screenshots. Now you can see that we are just beside a fortress control block. There are different control blocks or controllers to control different types of vehicles. And while these can be useful sometime, you will most usually not use them. You can see some instructions here, how we can move around a little bit and turn and stuff like that. But most often your crafts will be controlled by an AI. So we'll not go into manual control very much in this episode or this little introduction, because AI is the thing that basically needs to control your stuff. Otherwise it will be almost impossible to make certain crafts that kind of require automatic control. It's much better to let the AI do its work and maybe control the guns or something like that. It's more fun. But what is the reason I've shown you this little platform, and I'm going to show it to you in more detail? Well, it's because this shows you different ways you can use power and engines and the resources in the game. This game relies on resources. Here we have basic resource containers which contain resources. We also have a coal pile which contain resources. If we hover over them here, we can see the total amount of resources this platform contains. And while these containers look a little bit different, the looks is the biggest difference. Otherwise, the size of the container decides how much it can store. So the coal pile can store a lot of materials. Materials are used to power the vehicle and also as ammunition and fuel. To use stored material as ammunition and as fuel, you'll need special containers. These containers store fuel. They actually store material, but they will make the material be usable as fuel. And also, you can see here, we estimate that you require 1,500 materials per minute for fuel engines and custom jet engines. And right now, 3,150 materials are extractable as fuel, which means we have more than enough fuel tanks on this little build to be able to use it as fuel. So, the fuel tanks do not store fuel. They store materials, but they also lets you use the material as fuel. It's a little bit weird, but this is so that these are kind of flammable, which means that they are more easily destructed and easier to store. No, they are more dangerous to store. You'll need to protect them because otherwise they might be destroyed more easily. And if they are destroyed, you cannot use any type of engine, which is fuel engines and custom jet engines, anymore. They will not work if they have no fuel containers available. It basically converts material to fuel. That's what this does. The same thing is with ammo. Ammo storages lets you use stored material as ammunition. And it tells you, as well as the fuel tanks did, how much you'll need and how much you have. So they store material, but it lets you use them as ammunition. These, however, comes with a little cost. The ammo storage containers are very explosive, so you'll need it. You are really want to protect these ones. And here you'll have material containers in the middle, so these just store materials. All right, so we have material, we have fuel tanks, so we can use material as fuel and also store materials, and we'll have ammunition so that we can use materials as ammunition and store materials. They are explosives, they are flammable. There is something called a refinery, which we can build. A refinery lets you teleport materials to different places when you play the campaign without using logistics. It's a little bit weird. They used to make fuel, they do not anymore. They kind of teleport materials. But you'll need a lot of materials on your base to be able to do that, more than a million, so this thing doesn't work right now. So now we can move on a little bit. Here we have a fuel engine. A fuel engine makes power. In the lower right corner you can see the total amount of material. You can see here, if we click the middle mouse button, like the mouse wheel, if we click it, we can click around a little bit here and do some stuff. This will come in pretty handy when we use the build mode. Here we can see the amount of material we have stored. Here we can see the ammo access we have, the fuel access we have, the amount of power the engines generate, and also how much electricity or energy we have on the vehicle. So this thing generates power. You can see here that we have a stable power 174, and it also, if we're going to build mode, click B on this thing, we can remove this thing. We can see that some power was removed from the total pool. So this is the main engine block, and this basically creates power. There are lots of ways to create power, so we can check a little bit around here. Here we have a steam engine, which I have colored. The steam engine uses material directly. It doesn't use fuel. If you're using steam engines, you do not need to have fuel tanks. You only need fuel tanks for fuel engines and custom jet engines. This one creates power as it is. You can see here it burns material. We can set the burn rate here, and it will make it use more materials per second. If we turn it up, and if we turn it down, it will use less, but make less power. You can even hear it going a little bit slower when we sunk it down there. So what do we have here? Here we'll have a small gearbox, and we can see it, how much power it will create. If we limit the power, less steam will be, less energy will be consumed to make power. And the power is the same value that comes down here. But we can actually connect up this little turning rod to a steam propeller and stuff like that too. So we can use steam in many ways. But the simplest way is to hook it up to a gearbox and make it use maximum power. So we'll have a pretty good power output from it. If we remove this, we can see that instantly 2000 power got removed. So in this thing we have a little pipe vent. We can make it to regulate the pressure by setting this little gauge here. It's not super useful right now, but it can help you not produce overpressure, which can be good. Anyways, backside this little cylinder here we have an input, here is an output. We can hook up the output to something else. This is not very efficient, but it works. The excessive amount the excess amount of steam goes into this little turbine. This one produces electricity. Usually, for most for most early builds, you will not need to play around very much with electricity, but you'll need electricity for certain weapons and shields and certain systems. But regular systems like AI and detection and stuff like that, and other types of thrusters and like that, you don't need electricity generally, but if you want to have some special type of weapons, you'll need electricity, like lasers. No. Yes. We'll go into that later, but ignore electricity just for the beginning. If you do want to have electricity, which is very silent, you can use electric engines, and then the electric engines produce power. You can see some power goes away if we remove them, and they use batteries. Electricity, which we generate from the steam engine, for example, they are of course stored in batteries. So you can make little craft powered by batteries, basically. Here we have an RTG, radio isotope thermoelectric generator. And this produces electricity from thin air. These are very expensive, but a good way to charge satellites and stuff like that. So you can have kind of something like this to generate energy, some battery and some electric engine, and you have a self-sufficient system that never needs to be refilled. Very handy. So now we've basically shown you some basics about engines, power, electricity, fuel and ammo. So let's remove this entire thing, which we can go here and destroy all vehicles. Fantastic. So now we will build a vehicle, and in this video I won't show you absolutely everything, of course. This is just intended to get you started and get into the game and get a very solid start on how to play this game. On Zeet you can customize your inventory. If you don't have these things I have in my inventory, you can customize it here and look around. On X you can spawn enemy ships to test them out, and on C you have AI controls, so you can turn off the AI of enemy vehicles or your own if you want to test some stuff, or just make it so that your enemies in this creative build mode don't shoot at you. Anyways, we'll look a little bit more about that later. We'll now start to actually build a ship of our own. And we're gonna do a very basic little ship. We're gonna make a boat, and then we're going to upgrade it to an airship. So here we have beams. The 4-meter beams are better to use as much as possible, because these, as you can see, have more health and they are basically tougher to kill, and you want to have pretty sturdy blocks. There are different types of blocks here. I can basically have a little quick go through of them. So glass is transparent glass, very nice. You can protect cameras with it, for example, and when you want to have windows and stuff like that. Cameras can see through glass. Lightweight alloy is the most buoyant block. It's very good for everything, like boats, aircrafts and stuff. It's pretty expensive, and it does have quite good armor, but not as much armor as metal. It's not super expensive, but you know, it's basically a little bit less good than metal, but it's super light. So this is basically probably the best block in the game, probably, in terms of its uses. Wood looks very cool. It's the absolute cheapest type of thing you can build with. It floats by itself, and it's not too horrible. It's probably the worst it is the worst block. But yeah, you can use a lot of it and it will be very cheap. Like imagine 5 of this block is cost as much as 1 of this. So, you know, metal cost as much as lightweight alloy, but it's heavy and good standard armor. This is your go-to block basically. You can also see that structurally sound adds armor to other structural blocks. So if blocks are placed behind another block, it can boost its armor. So wood can add 1.6 while this metal block can add 8, and yeah, basically having 2 layers of armor makes the top layer of armor stronger. But beyond 2 layers, this effect does not stack up. And it only works for like whole blocks. So applique panels and yeah, era armor and metal plates, for example, doesn't give you armor boost. But having 2 layers makes the surface layer of the armor even stronger than it would be otherwise. So that's something to keep in mind. Always have at least 2 layers basically, no matter the material. Stone costs only 2, have almost as much health as the alloy or metal, doesn't have very good armor and weighs as much as metal, but it's kind of a cheap fill-in block. Can be good to have as armor basically. You can have it as cheap armor. You can have 1 layer of metal and 1 layer of stone, and you have a heavy, cost-efficient armor, basically. Lead is very heavy and basically only good to keep your crafts balanced. We have heavy armor, which is the absolutely best armored block in the game. It's as heavy as lead, I believe, and it should only be used carefully on chosen surfaces because it's very expensive. Very expensive. Then we have rubber, and rubber can be good to make your vehicles not take damage from bouncing into stuff. Yeah. Metal plates are most useful to cover up stuff, make it look metal even though it's not, and can be used as some kind of layer on layer top armor, but it's kind of weak, so don't trust your life to thin metal plates. Era armor will get destroyed when they get hit, but will be able to take out shells like heat very efficiently. These can also be added on certain surfaces to keep them safe. For example, if a very heavy tank would try to shoot you, you can at least cancel 1 or 2 of the shots from, you know, doing any damage to your main hull. This is, of course, an add-on armor. As same as applique panels. Applique panels is a add-on armor which you can put on top of stuff to, you know, basically the applique panels get destroyed, but your main armor below is intact. Reinforced decking is a combination with wood and metal, and basically has the combined stats of wood and metal. It's a very nice combination, and I like reinforced wood a lot. Surge protector helps absorb something called EMP damage. We can go into that a little bit later, but you know, in some other video probably, but EMP is electromagnetic pulse damage, and that can destroy electric components. These help to suck it up. Truss blocks are a nice skeletal frame. And that, I believe, is the blocks. So let's continue building. We're gonna build this thing with wood, because I like wood. Now we can see the front here. Face any direction and click N, and you can see we get different types of symmetry planes. So now we have the build mode, which is the built in from the depth build mode. I have my build speed a little bit faster. If you have it slower, you will not be able to build as fast as I'm doing now, but that can probably be a good thing when you start building. Alright, so here we have a nice little shape like that. And we are going to make a little boat like this. We're gonna just make a little boat. And while this boat is hollow, it doesn't understand that water can't leak in right now. So water will leak in. We'll need to add a special block to hinder water from leaking in. If you have a frame like this and you would want to fill in the top, you could actually face a direction like this and click, no, you face down like this. Like imagine we want to make a plane like this. We do like that and we click F and we can fill it in. Very useful tool. If you made a mistake, just click Ctrl Z and you cancel that move. Anyways, let's see if this thing floats. So you just click caps lock and we'll drop down this entire thing. Here we have it. A beautiful little boat. You can see we have some water coming in here. It's a little bit hard to see, but sometimes you see it. To remove that water, you'll go into water, and here we have an air pump. If your blocks are in a weird direction and you want them in a normal direction, just face the front of your vehicle and click G, and your blocks will align to where you point, G. Cool. So now we can see that this is submerged. No. This is now, this basically has pumped out all the water. You can see we have some interesting weird red markers here that show us that. So we have a very floaty boat and we can now start adding some stuff on it. So there are certain things we want to keep pretty safe. So we are going to do a little storage container where we'll keep some stuff we want to keep safe basically. And while we are going to do like this, we're gonna add a little metal cage, but I don't want to make it too heavy, so we're gonna use lightweight alloy like this. Cool. So we're basically making a citadel. And now we have closed off this area. This will not be able to pump out the water in this area, so keep that in mind. Like that. And it can be a good idea to cover the bottom of your crafts. So I'll did a little fill there. Now, some blocks are a little bit sensitive to EMP, and metals kind of tend to lead EMP. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to replace some of the bottom materials here with stone, since stone and wood doesn't lead EMP. Cool. We're gonna build a little AI here. But first, I'm going to give you a quick check through of all these areas here. Water, here we have sails, we have propellers, rudders, everything like that for air control. No, for water control, sorry. Hydrofoils as well, and paddles and a lot of stuff. Here on air, we have stuff that you can make air things with, like jet engines, custom wet engines, air balloons, helium pumps, cool stuff like that. Wings, you know. Here on land, we have basically wheels and foot, if you want to make mechs, but that's really hard. On resources, we'll have material gatherers. You'll need material gatherers to gather materials in the campaign, material storage, ammo, fuel, and all that. RTG, common, cool stuff. On control, you have the manual control section. Here we have all the manual control stuff we'll need, as well as a share. We want to add a chair to our vehicle because we want to be able to, you know, sit in it somewhere. So let's teleport here. And Fire Control Computer makes you be able to take control over your weapons by hand, so that you can control all the weapons yourself from remote. Vehicle controllers are just for manual control, so we'll not dive into it too much this time, but basically you'll just slap on a vehicle controller pretty close to where you are, and controls pop up in the top left. AI. Here we will hang around a lot. On AI we have everything related to our AI, which will control and shoot our guns. Control the vehicles, drive around, shoot guns, detect stuff. Very useful. Here we have fuel engines. Here we have steam engines, steam propellers. This steam is a lot. We will not build steam this time, but I will show you how to build steam in future tutorials, and you'll also can see previous videos I made about how to make steam. Here we have simple weapons, easy weapons that you can set up very easily, and we are going to take a look at easy weapons in this video. Yes. Here we have cram cannons. I already have a nice little tutorial on cram cannons. Please check it out, and I will make new cram tutorials in the future, so do subscribe. Advanced cannons are more advanced than crams, so we'll want to look into it in this episode. But I already have a video on how to make fast fire advanced cannons. Please check that out. And of course I will make future videos on how to make advanced cannons. Missiles, same thing again. Already got a nice several nice missile tutorials that are valid. Please check them out, and I will make new missile tutorials in the future, but missiles are very cool. Laser systems, won't go into that yet. Particle cannons, also not yet. Defense. Here we have some defense stuff, but that's for another time. Decorations, decorative blocks, you know, like anchors and railings and cool stuff like that. I mean, have your fill. Just add cool decorative blocks. Yep. We have lights as well, by the way. You can customize the lights. It's pretty cool. So if we make a little headlight here, we can go into it and we can set basically even the color. Pretty cool. Then we have miscellaneous. We have lots of different weird stuff here. We'll look into it a little bit. And also sub-objects, which will make you make turrets. I think we'll go into this one in this video as well. Just a little bit. Alright, so first we're going to go to the Resources tab. On the Resources tab, we are going to select some nice material storage containers, and we're going to put them inside our compartment here. So now we have a lot of materials. Now we click this little X, and we can go into fuel. This is going to be a fuel craft. We probably don't need this much fuel, but we are going to have fuel. And this also adds, you can see, if you look at the bottom right corner, you can see it also added a lot of material storage, because remember, fuel tanks and ammo barrels store material. Then we're gonna have ammo boxes. We'll have 2 big ammo boxes here, and this should be more than enough. These are exploding. Because they are exploding, we are going to compartmentalize them off so that they can't hurt us. Nice. Okay, now we have been enough here. This will not be a salvage craft, it will just be a regular combat vessel thing. If you want to refill these containers here in creative, you can just click Q on them and you'll fill them up. So now your vehicle is completely full. Cool. We are now going to jump to AI, and we are going to set up a basic little AI here. So we click G to align. We'll have our mainframe here. The mainframe is the main block. We'll have a couple of connectors. We have an AI card slot reader. We're gonna have a few general processing cards, which will make us be able to use more detection equipment. Basically, general processing cards lets you have more stuff, more detection. Pretty useful. This is an inter-vehicle transmitter. Have this on all your crafts and they will share information with each other. Very handy. Here we'll have a wireless transmitter. You'll need a wireless transmitter to be able to remotely connect up stuff on the same craft. Otherwise, you'll need to use connectors to physically connect up every part. Not handy. Okay, so now we added some cool stuff here. If you want to remove fog of war, you can use this thing, peeper antenna. We won't do it for this craft because, you know, it's gonna be pretty low flying, low going. This is a boat. We're going to begin with making a boat, yes. Here we have an AI card slot. And if you begin play from the depth, you can go into plug and play cards. And we can just select circling ship. And we'll hook up a circling ship here. Now we can see our symmetry plane is on. So we'll need to click N until it's gone. So we'll only have one of them. Right, so now we basically set it up automatically. It's automatically set up, very nice. If you want to do it yourself, we can just remove this thing and we can click Q to go into this thing and we can set it up as a naval and click so it's active. Then you can select some ranges, adjustments. Here we can select a lot of stuff. Maneuver. We can select it should move around as a ship and click again to make it active and stuff like that. Cool. So we can do it like that if we want to, but we are actually just going to be very lazy for this little beginner's guide, and we are going to just, as said, go into and plug in a circling ship. Now it's a ship that will circle around. Very cool. Now to add detection, I have a very handy tutorial that lets you add detection to a ship in 5 levels, depending on complexity. I will recommend you to take a look at that for more details, which should be much handy. But we're going to set up one little easy detection thing here. We'll set up these physical connectors and a wireless receiver. Then we'll go into detection components. We're going to have a mix of different detection components. We're going to have a radar. We are going to have a camera facing forward and a camera facing each of the sides and a camera facing backwards. So we'll have some cameras and a some cameras and a radar. So we don't only need cameras. We don't only need cameras. We also need something called trackers. So we're going to just hook up here so we can have a few trackers. We'll want to do very complex stuff like this, but trackers lets your vehicle be much more accurate when shooting. So we'll have different types of trackers. 2 laser rangefinders because they're cheap and easy. Cheap to get and cheap in processing power. You can read a lot more details on top of them here. And then we're going to have a camera tracker on each side. So this is a weird little setup we have. And this should be more than enough for this vehicle. And please check my 5-level tutorials on how to set up 5 levels of detection and tracking dependent on complexity. It's pretty handy. Right, now we have basically set up the AI. So here we are, very handy. Now we will go to fuel engines, and we are going to build a fuel engine. And since this is not a fuel engine tutorial, it's not super complex to make fuel engines, but if you just want to get in quickly, you can just select one preset here. I think they're a little bit too big, so we're just going to slap down an Eco Max, which will produce not very much power, but enough power. Now we will remove that fuel box because we already have fuel boxes down below there, and now you can see we almost have 200 power. And this is pretty friendly for the it will be cheap to use this thing. And if your exit pipe is blocked, you will need to lead it out somewhere. Now you can see it just goes straight up, which is not a problem. We can even use one of these to make a flush little installment. You can go into it and set some different stuff here. We don't have any batteries, so we can turn off the battery charge fraction. We have a very small engine, but yeah, it should probably do. So let us go through, and I'm just going to show you how to make a small efficient engine which will eat a lot of energy but also be very efficient. So we are basically going to have this engine on another place just so that we, you know, if one engine gets destroyed, we still have one left. Okay. So first you need a base block, fuel engine generator, which is the base block. Then we'll need a crankshaft. We'll need cylinders around the crankshaft like this. Then we'll need injector. The injector is much less efficient than this system, but will give us a lot of power. You can see this basically suction cup looking things. That tells us where we can hook it up. And we can hook it up there and there. And there and there. So now this is hooked up and this is hooked up. Now this needs a lot of exhaust. And we can combine them together to one pipe, by the way. Looks a little bit more professional. Right. Junction pipes go like that, go like that, go like that. And because these generate a lot of heat, we actually need to have 2 pipes exiting per cylinder. Otherwise it will complain. That, like that, like that. Cool. Now you can see it doesn't complain anymore because now we have exhausts. And of course we can use this ending piece to make it look cooler too. There we go. Now we can see that our power is now a whopping almost 2000. Pretty nice. This thing in front of here only produced 200. Cool, we have power. What to do with it? So, since this is an aircraft, a boat, we'll need to go to the water tab. We already have an air pump, but we'll need propellers. Huge propellers produce huge power. Click G to align it, and we can hook it down below the water surface. So here we have it. Now our boat is actually too light for this big propeller. It's very quick. So yeah, you can see it flips over here, and if you want to fix this, you just, when in build mode, click caps lock and kind of straighten itself up. So since this huge propeller is too big, or we'll need to make it heavier, then we can use a couple of small propellers instead, and it should not flip. To make this vehicle be able to turn, we can either use propellers on each of the sides, and if you go on top of this thing, you can see it's already a turner preset. It tries to set it as what it should be, dependent on where you place a propeller. So it's all set up. Pusher preset, yep, it just works. You can also use rudders to turn your vehicles, and that's very nice, but they tend to make your vehicle tilt much more. So for this particular build, we're going to skip the rudder. But here we can see we have a working boat which can detect and drive around. Very nice. And we don't nearly use as much of the power that we generate. We only use a fraction. So we want some basic defense, so we are going to use simple weapons. So let us select some nice weapons. Here we have the most advanced anti-air system, or most expensive. It's pretty easy. We'll just make a little platform to place it on. Go to simple weapons. No, there. And plop it down. And you can go into it and even select how it should face when it's offline. Right. And now we go to AI, local weapon controller. We can place a local weapon controller here. Then we'll need a wireless receiver, as well as a failsafe so it won't shoot itself. Cool. We can go into this local weapon controller by pressing Q, and you can select what targets it will target or not. So now we have a nice anti-air cannon installed on this vessel. So let's play around a little bit more with local weapon controllers. We're gonna set up a symmetry plane, and we are going to add some broadside cannons right here. And of course a wireless receiver. And now we can go to simple weapons, and now we can select cannons that can't turn around very much. And when we add cannons in this fashion on each side like this, they can share the weapon controller, and we don't need a failsafe because they can't swivel around very much. So now we have 3 broadside cannons per side. Very nice. You can also go into... You can mix weapons, by the way. We can have a little anti-air cannon on top of here. And you can go into the weapon controller and select if you don't want it to attack submarines, for example. We can just turn this to it needs to be 0 level or above. And when you use the symmetry plane and set settings, you'll need to go into the other side and do it manually, unfortunately. Okay, something like that. So we are now also going to make a little cannon on a turret. It will be a very basic one, but let's go here. We can select the AI. Oh, and by the way, local weapon controller, I mean. By the way, we are going to go, I'm just going to show you this thing. You can see that this weapon controller can control guns which are placed directly around it, or 1 block away. So this is the maximum distance, but this gets also controlled. Like all of these guns actually gets controlled by this one. Pretty cool. But we are now going to add a little platform. Let's add a little metal platform here. Go to AI, wireless receiver. We are going to use failsafe for this one, like that, and we are going to go into sub-objects, and here we can select turrets. Okay, find the 2-axis turret, click G to align it, and plop it down there. Now we only added one here, and we directly start building on this thing. On top of it, we can now add our simple weapon. So we're going to add a 30mm assault gun to this thing. And some 60mm below here. And this has a failsafe, but you can see that it might actually hurt our detection blocks because they are kind of close. So it's a little bit bad idea to have them close like this. Anyways, our radar are disabled backwards because it checks a line in a straight line like this, and you can see that these tubes are actually blocking it. So when you set up the detection, do that last. You'll thank yourself later. Okay, now we are still building onto this turret, so we can't place a block anywhere else. The easiest way to just get out of there is to click B, and click B again onto the area you want to build. Now I don't want to have another 2-axis turret here, so we are going to add a shard cannon, which is good for long range. Something like that. And pretty cool. Okay. And the simple weapons use ammunition, all of them. So, we kind of have set up a nice little thing here, but what if we get damaged? Well, we'll need to go to Miscellaneous and get some repair bots. You can have as many repair bots as you want. The more you have, the faster you can regenerate. And it doesn't matter where you place them, so spread them out a little bit so not all of them get destroyed at the same time. And they are 50 materials each, so don't add too much of them. If you want to be able to repair other vehicles, you need a repair tentacle or a compact repair tentacle somewhere on your vehicle. You can even hide it. Cool. Now, a thing that is a problem is that our ship isn't very aerodynamic at all. If we go out of build mode by clicking G, click tab to get here, and then we can click E and E again, and now you can see we are not following the boat anymore. We can go into this and we can select patrol mode by clicking this and then right clicking where we want the boat to go. Because there is something I wanted to show you when building. Our vehicle is a little bit unstable when we go now. To fix this, we should have some lead in the bottom as a counterweight. However, when we're doing stuff like this, we might as well add armor on top to the vehicle. So we are going to make a little metal platform below the boat to stabilize it, and this will also protect it very much against torpedoes. Pretty good combo, I think. There we go. We can see that our speed is now 11 meters per second and it's turning back and forth. So I think that now we can actually go back here, and when you hover over a block and click R, you actually select a block, which is an easy way to get into the menu you probably want to reach. If you want to go to propellers, you can click R, select a propeller, click E to get into the build menu. Here we have huge propellers. Let us indeed remove these and plot down a huge propeller. And now our speeds should be much better. So if we go down there, we can see that our boat is zigzagging back and forth. You'll need to customize a lot to make it like more stable. With PIDs we can make it much more stable, by the way, but yeah, we'll check that out a little bit later. Right now we are going to add a little lead block to change the center of mass. And From the Depth is a game that care about hydro and aerodynamics, which means that this design is terrible. To make this much faster, we are going to make it pointy. The pointier they are, the faster it has the capacity to be. So we're just gonna add a simple little pointy nose to this thing. Oh, and you can see this little thing here. You can click one on this thing, on two on this thing, and now we can quickly switch between these. When you right click, you move towards yourself, and when you left click, you move forwards when you're building. But both of them have the capacity to build or remove, by the way, if I didn't tell you that earlier. Okay, now we can see we're already up in 20 meters per second because we are much less drag than we had before, since we are pointy now. Very nice. Okay, now what is missing is of course better armor. You can see we only have one layer armor here, and so we're going to go into lightweight alloy, and we are going to add a simple little layer of armor. Now this is a terrible armor, and you want to have sloped armor because it's much likelier that shots will bounce. But this is just a pretty sad tutorial craft, so I hope you forgive me. And when you arm your stuff, don't block the detection. If they don't have actual line of sight of what they are gonna detect or track, they can't do it. But do check my 5-level tutorial for more details. Thank yourself later. Fantastic. Since we want to be a little bit paranoid, we are going to slap on some applique panels on some points. Like that. I don't know why I exactly place it here, just because I felt like it. So, cool, here we are. Fantastic armor. And remember, when you armor your craft, don't cheap out on decking. So we are going to add a... We're gonna use reinforced decking for this one to get that, whoops, wood feeling. Now, I won't actually cover this thing because, as I said, it's a little tutorial thing, and yeah, it's just for tutorial purposes. So cover everything up, make slopes and stuff like that, and you'll be very happy. Cool. So now we have a nice working boat, and we are going to destroy it all by trying to make this an airship. So I think I've gone through all of these parts here. Fence, basically the basics there, because there's a little more addition we want to add. Oh, and one thing, of course, while you build, save it often. Save vehicle, tutorial. This is tutorial craft, and save new vehicles as tutorial. Now you can spawn the vehicle, and you'll want, save regularly when you build. Cool. Go into X. Go into Marauder. This is the ship that people tend to test it against. I don't know why, but... And just click Spawn Now. Now you have spawned a marauder. Click C to turn off the marauder's weapons and you will not be hurt. Fantastic. You can even turn off the marauders. No, don't turn God mode on. You can turn God mode on for yourself if you want to. I will do that. You can turn the marauders AI off. Now you can see that our guns are automatically targeting it. I can click scroll and now I control the guns and shoot by holding control. Then we'll bypass the failsafe. So let the AI use the scroll wheel until the AI just controls all your weapons and it's much better. Oh, and you can see this particular weapon controller do not offer a failsafe. Thus, they kind of shoot itself. Very sad. Here we can see our 2-axis turret. It's working hardcore. Very nice. If you think your game is going too fast, click the minus button. Now let's see here. Until you get the slow motion. Very nice. And you can now enjoy a slow motion thing and you can fly over here and see the damage. You can hold plus again until you're back to normal speed. Cool. So now we can see our boat is indeed working. It is, however, you can see our tutorial AI is turned off, so we're gonna turn it on. So now it also drives around and controls the gun automatically. Fantastic. So basically there we have it. The last little part of this video, I'm going to go and we're gonna make this a watercraft. Now let's just check out this thing. Is it close to get destroyed? Not very, but we have a very small boat, so we're going to click escape and destroy all enemy vehicles, not all vehicles. Cool. Now it's destroyed. We can take this up into the air and we are going to remove some heavy blocks. Like that. So let me just remove some heavy blocks and there we go. If you click F3 you can switch to a different build mode. If I think that's a little bit quicker sometimes when I'm removing stuff. So yes. Removed. When we're building our stuff, we want to keep ourselves pretty light. So that's why we removed blocks there. Now we can switch back to regular build mode and we are going to go into this thing. And we can indeed adjustments, maneuver, hover maneuver, yes. However, we are now going to remove this little AI card setup because it, well, it's not handy in the air. So we're going to select our own little thing here. Cool. We're gonna select circle, circle at distance, like this. Maximum roll, we can set it to 0. Right, turn off roll there. We go to, let's see here, circle at distance is on. Here we can see minimum altitude above land. We can set it to 100, water, something like that. And max altitude, we can set it to like 200. Cool. Then we will go to maneuver, add maneuver, and we are going to have hover movement. I think this will be fine and we'll activate it, otherwise we'll change it later, because Frame the Depths is a lot about changing stuff. Now select an AI block, go into E menu, and here we have PID. we want to slap on 2 PIDs. This one will be pitch, this one will be roll. Now, PIDs can be used for stabilizing, and you may as well put them on boats as well. I usually have them on boats, but yeah, so you can do the same to make a more stable boat. So it's pretty handy, and aerodynamics is a thing, so you'll still want to be a little bit streamlined. Now you can see we have a mass center. The mass center is a little bit important. We can remove this little floaty thing, and here we are. Now we can see it doesn't have enough processing power. If it does complain about that, just add until it stops complaining. You know, add general purpose processing cards. Okay, so to make this thing float, we can do a lot of different things. We can use both balloons, we can use propellers, we can use a lot of cool stuff. So let's check into it. And we can go here and R. And here we have a Daddy Blade stack. Click G to align it. And we can now place it down there. And we can place one down here. Cool. Now we can turn that off. And this is a special mode you can capture and save prefabs and stuff like that. It's pretty handy. Right. So now we have these things here. We'll need to select what they do. Here we have Daddy Pole extension, and this is the dedicated spinner. Alright, so now we have all the Daddy Blade spinners here, and just go into one of them here. And here we can have spin rate control. Now check this strafe and hover, select picture preset, and select also to have hover on. And now you can see the roll here. Drag this until it's green. And this will not be the same for all of them, so drag them in different direction until everything is green. If you have the exact same settings, you can just use copy and paste. To make them much stronger, like actually right now they don't use any engine power, it's pretty insane. But if you turn on motor drive, they will start using engine powers. So select motor drive on all these things. You can see if you go in here, you can see the spin rate. If you go to the spin rate control, you can see that this is already set. If you change this, it turns red. Very sad, and then it won't work. So all of them need to be green like this. Motor drive 2, and you just set them all up like this. Motor drive, okay, just right in here, motor drive 2 and motor drive 2, and they will be much more convenient. Nice. So now you can see we are flying up to 80 degrees, so it kind of moves as we set it up. You can see that when we turned on motor drive, they are a little bit jerking around in the air, very powerful. To change this, you'll need to go into an edit roll. So basically you'll go and set gain to something lower until it stops shaking, or perhaps select the derivate time. Basically it's a little bit interesting. The more gain you have, the more powerful they will be. They will also be more efficient, so keep that in mind. Something like this. Yep, that's probably good. Then we can go and have pitch. We can turn down gain a little bit. So it will be, it's now super stable, but if you let it shake around like it already did, it's also more powerful. So it's a trade-off, but it looks better when we are on this thing now. To make this fly around, we'll need to go into air, and we'll need to select a jet engine. The jet engine does use power which we produce. So we'll just plop down a jet engine here, and we'll have thrust. And we can have more jet engines for more thrust, by the way. Then we also have jet engines we can have here. We can add jet engines for steering, which is probably the simplest setup to do. So, if everything is working, you should probably hop onto it and click escape and save the vehicle. Cool. You've now converted your ship to a functioning airship, or perhaps you have upgraded your boat to a very stable boat. So let's celebrate with spawning a marauder and let it play around. And you can see that it will try to shoot the marauder. The only problem is that our weapons are... yeah, we basically can't reach anything. Okay, we'll go into planes. Let's spawn a bomb plane. Okay, it should be able to take out planes. Yep, it now starts to shoot and hit planes. So our airship is now doing combat. I think that is everything for this little introductory tutorial, and I do hope that it's helpful for you. If you want to see more future videos on how to get into From the Depth, how to build specific things, please check my From the Depth and tutorial playlists, and also subscribe, because I will make future videos that are also about, you know, this subject. By the way, it seems that there is a problem. If an entity is oh, you can see not enough free room behind, so it's decreased to 60% of the efficiency. Keep that in mind. If a block is glowing yellow, there is a problem, and you'll need to hover over the block and see what the problem is. Oh, and some cannons, by the way, you probably need to go to them, like this one. No, like this one, and select required accuracy before fire. Set it to lower and it will be more accurate, but it will also sometimes miss opportunities to shoot down the target. Anyways, hope that this very thorough beginner's tutorial has been helpful for you. And if it has been, please subscribe, and I'll see you in future videos. This is your host, GMODISM, signing out. Bye bye. Subscribe.